Rinse and repeat in the Midwest. More powerful storms getting ready to bring damaging wind and hail to major metros like Kansas City. Now, some of those storms already rumbling this morning, bringing more rain and lightning from Nebraska down into Arkansas. Meanwhile, plus flood alerts re-enter the Northeast round after round. Look what we're expecting here, bringing rain to areas that just don't need even a drop. The multi-day flood risk taking us into the weekend. This is America's Morning Headquarters. I'm meteorologist Felicia Combs, alongside meteorologists Lynette Charles and Stephanie Abrams. National correspondent Justin Michaels will also join us live from Vermont as the region braces for more rain. This is the last thing that we need, Steph, is more rain, more storms. But I will tell you, across portions of the country where it's been pretty dry, maybe we'll take the rain, but not the storms.
Right, but Arkansas, we've been one of these places.
And then the aftermath of that, knowing that we have more rain in the forecast for some of these areas, is just the last thing that we want to see here as we're closing out our week. We've got some showers and storms moving through. We've got some flood warnings already up this morning and a severe thunderstorm warning there moving out of eastern Pennsylvania into New Jersey. This severe thunderstorm warning including the city of Trenton. This is until 6:45 a.m. Hamilton also included in that. Could have some winds up around 60 miles an hour, a bit of hail with it, and then we've got some lightning and heavy rain coming down as well. So if you're in Trenton and you're about to head out the door, maybe just give it a couple minutes, let this particular line of storms move through. You're not done with the chance for storms as we head through the day, though. We'll have more rain and storms moving through this entire area, getting a little bit of a break there in NYC, but just a little bit of a break. You've still got storms coming later on. Boston, a bit of a rainy, thundery morning for you, and we're still not done. I hope you weren't trying to sleep in there in Beantown because those thunderstorms probably woke you up. Here are our flood alerts that we have up and down the Hudson Valley through portions of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island getting in on that, and of course southern New Hampshire there. So we are going to have that possibility for flooding ramping up as we head through the day for these places that can't take anymore, so keep that in mind. Here's the rain that we're seeing crossing the 85 corridor. Right now we've got flash flood warnings up around Raleigh. You've got some very heavy rain coming down at this moment, so if you're heading out, give yourself a little bit of extra time. This is the type of rain, the type of setup and situation that could lead to some hydroplaning. So this isn't the morning where you want to be on in a rush on your way to work, so give yourself just a bit of extra time in the cities of Raleigh, Durham, Cary. This is until 7:30. As you can see, that heavy rain really not in any hurry to move out. Now, this really most of this area could see that possibility for some feisty storms from southern New England all the way down through the mid-Atlantic into the Carolinas. That possibility for damaging wind gusts, for a bit of hail, and then of course the heavy rain and the lightning that comes along with that as well. So let's time it out for you on future radar. Kind of gives you a broad brush. You'll notice by lunchtime, we're really still fairly quiet by lunchtime. Heading into the afternoon, as the atmosphere destabilizes a little bit more, you've got a better chance for these storms bubbling up across the region. So you spent all week at work. It's Friday. You're ready to get off at 6 o'clock, and you've got the storms bubbling up. So keep that in mind. Take the umbrella with you. Don't leave it in your car. It's not going to do you any good if you left it in the car as you walked into work. So we've got storms bubbling up across the mid-Atlantic, across New England as well. And then you can see here exactly where we don't want to see any more rain, across portions of Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, where it's already been so wet. That's continuing into the overnight hours, and then we have another round of rain moving eastward that we have to watch. So, Steph, it's like, you know, it takes a little bit longer for those river flood concerns to go down, so to add more rain to that is just such a problem.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately.
I stole Steph's sneeze, apparently. Jeez. Goodness. Okay, well, a flash flood emergency. It finally made it to Friday, and maybe your Friday includes a plane ride. If it does, right now we're looking at lots of green bubbles on the map, and that is fantastic news considering some of the travel troubles we've seen recently. Of course, this is just based on weather. Now, as we head through the day today, we do have the possibility for some delays because we've got that chance for some feisty storms. So places like Kansas City and Boston, those storms moving through definitely could cause some delays. I would say probably not cancellations, but certainly at least some delays. Charlotte, you've got that possibility for some storms as well. And as we know, when you're seeing storms in any of these hubs like Kansas City, like Boston, sometimes you start to see those delays stack up a bit. Good news if you're flying through ATL, should be pretty quiet. Miami, though, typical summertime rainy season pattern, that chance for a few storms here or there. Now, it's not just in the air that we could have some issues. You could have some issues on the roadways this morning, especially across portions of Oklahoma and Arkansas, where we've had quite a bit of rain over the last couple hours, well, not in the last couple hours, in fact, over the last couple days. So we're still seeing that possibility for some flash flooding. Here's a look at our flash flood warnings. Heavy rain still coming down. Let's take a live look now at Bowles. Give it a little bit until these storms pass through, because they are putting down that heavy rain and lots of lightning like you just saw there. So there's the ground truth of that system that's moving through Arkansas currently. Up to Nebraska, where we've got some thunderstorms starting off our morning. Valentine, you're steadily stuck in the rain, and we've got that possibility for some storms as we head throughout the day. Severe thunderstorms are possible for cities like Wichita, Oklahoma City, over into Springfield, portions of the Ozarks included in that, with the wind gusts not just up around 60, but maybe up to 75 mile per hour or more wind gusts. That can definitely do some damage, take some power lines out, maybe some power outages with that. Large hail and very heavy rain for this region as well. A closer look at where that greatest possibility of those really strong winds here along that I-70 corridor, Salina included in that, over into Kansas City. So you want to be cognizant when you find yourself in a severe thunderstorm warning that you take it seriously today in this area. Steph.
Well, let's talk about the heavy rain. We've seen
the risk for severe storms in the forecast at all, but when you're talking about them overnight as well, definitely adds an extra element, especially when it's the weekend. A lot of people are traveling. Maybe you're in a city that you don't know that well, so you always want to make sure that you know where your safe place is and how to get there. You also want to make sure, if you can, to wait a little while before you head out and say, Mana, Fort Smith, the rain is clearing out for you, but you're still under a flash flood warning. That is what all those green polygons are indicative of, flash flood warnings here along that I-40 corridor across portions of Oklahoma down into Arkansas. We also have a severe thunderstorm warning up just to the southeast of Branson, so you've got some heavy rain with that. The cities of Diamond City, Lead Hill, South Lead Hill, all included in that until 6 a.m. Heavy rain, lots of lightning moving through portions of the Ozarks. You've got that possibility for some damaging wind gusts, maybe a bit of hail with that as well. So again, it's going to be active on and off throughout the day, but if you're getting ready to head out the door and you're in that region, maybe just wait a little bit until that moves through. Tons of lightning with this area of storminess moving through Valentine right now down through Nebraska. We're starting to see that rain clear out of the I-90 corridor, but this is all going to progress and fill in southward and bring us that risk for storms later on today. Highlighted area anywhere in red, you've got that risk for some feisty storms, but a higher risk is going to be in this darker red shade in Kansas City, Dodge City, over into Springfield, Tulsa, all included in that. And the big threat today is going to be these winds. Winds gusting upwards of 60 miles an hour, but specifically in this hatched outline that you see here, 75 mile per hour winds or greater for places like Concordia, Salina, over into Kansas City, Emporia. And what that means for you is that if you're under a tree that maybe is dead, it could come down. Tree limbs can come down. So you want to treat any severe thunderstorm warnings that you find yourself in very seriously. You don't want to be out and about. You want to make sure you kind of hold off if you can. Quick look at the future radar shows our first area of storminess moving through. You can see our line of storms that are diving southward through Nebraska. Omaha, you're getting in on some of those storms, pushing their way down into Kansas. And look at how this starts to take on this bowing shape here. That is a telltale sign on the radar of some damaging winds within storms. Also, maybe some large hail in here as well. So it's right as we're getting off of work. 5, 6 o'clock, those storms are rolling through. Maybe plan accordingly. Definitely don't want to be on the road during these storms. Across the Ozarks, your Friday night, I know you want to get out and enjoy, but you're going to have storms, and some of those are going to be a bit feisty. This entire complex of storms continues pushing its way to the south and east as we head through the overnight hours. So, you know, Lynette, I feel like when we talk about the possibility for tornadoes, everyone pays a lot of attention, but sometimes those severe thunderstorm warnings, they get ignored a bit, and they can be just as dangerous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't sleep on those straight line winds.
Right.
And speaking of the severe thunderstorm warnings, we actually have them across the Northeast right now as well. So let's
hot, dangerously hot. In fact, triple-digit temps are threatening to break heat records this weekend. You can see just how quickly, especially when you're talking about a temperature of 112 degrees in Vegas, how quickly that car heats up. 131 degrees after just 10 minutes. This number is just absolutely mind-blowing. After 30 minutes in your car in Vegas, it's 146 degrees. It is absolutely unlivable inside there, whether you're talking about kids, pets, even, you know, plants, if you were leaving a plant in there, something like that. Also, you want to keep that in mind in New Orleans, where it's 95 degrees. That is already pretty hot, but after just 10 minutes, it's 114 degrees in your car. Waco, Texas, where today's high is going to be 105, 124 inside your car. So also be careful when you're getting in, and just know that anything metal is going to be really hot to touch. It's just so hot out there, guys, and kids and pets left in hot cars are a growing concern when these temperatures are rising. Meteorologist Reynolds Wolf explains how to avoid hot car tragedies. And you want to make sure you're keeping yourself safe as well. When we're talking about all-time heat records, this type of heat, it's the type of heat that can become dangerous really quickly. Here's our heat dome that is not just over the Southwest, it's spread across the country, but we're really seeing the focal point of those heat alerts across the desert Southwest, the West Coast, through the southern plains, even into the Gulf Coast as well. So where you see the pink, those are our excessive heat warnings for cities like Vegas and Phoenix, over into Fresno as well. The red indicative of heat advisories. So you know when you're seeing excessive heat warnings for cities like Phoenix, that's normally a hot city anyways. I mean, normally you're talking about the average temperature this time of year for a place like, say, Fresno is up around 98 degrees anyways. So you're not a stranger to the heat, but this type of heat could break some all-time records. The all-time record in Fresno, 115, set back in July 1905. In Vegas, 117 in July 2021. And we're going to get really, really close to those numbers. Here's the forecast for tomorrow for your Saturday. That forecast of 115 in Vegas. I know it's the weekend. I know maybe you had this Vegas weekend planned for a long time, and water and hydration is the last thing you want to be drinking. But let me tell you, with heat like this, you definitely want to make sure you're hydrating. Same thing in Phoenix, 117 degrees, very, very close to that all-time record high. Let's take a look at where we could see some of those records outside of there. Sacramento, 107. That is very close to 109 set back in 1926. Phoenix could tie that record from 1998. Albuquerque, you're also getting really close to your record with 100 degrees in the forecast. The heat not ending there, heading into Sunday as well. Fresno, California. Forecast there, 111 degrees. And it's not just the daytime highs that are remaining. Starting out your Friday morning with some storms, and we're going to continue that trend through your Friday. Thanks for sticking with us this morning. Let's talk about where we've got some heavy rain currently. You can see Valentine, you've been stuck in that rain. This is going to start to push southward, though, and we're going to see this filling in. Not just rain, but thunderstorms moving through, some really heavy rain, lots of lightning. It's your morning wake-up call. I hope this wasn't your Friday that you took off work and you're like, you know what, I'm going to sleep in because these storms probably woke you up. Along that 80 corridor, Kearney up through Grand Island, you have that heavy rain moving through around lunchtime. So if you are I drive to get my lunch person and I don't pack it and bring it with me, you might want to bring it with you today as you're heading to work. You can see most of that heavy rain begins to push south of the 80 corridor as we head into the afternoon and then clearing out for a little while. Not going to completely rule out that chance for some more storms as we head into the evening and overnight here or there. We've got that risk of severe storms, and one of the biggest risks today going to be the damaging winds. Now, to have a technically severe thunderstorm, you have to have those winds at 58 miles per hour or greater. But we're looking at storms today creating severe weather that could be 75 miles per hour or greater with that wind threat for the cities of Salina, Hayes, Emporia, over into Kansas City as well. That is certainly enough to bring down those tree limbs, to bring down a tree, to cause some power outages as well. Here's 7 p.m. You're trying to start your weekend, right, in Wichita. Instead, those storms are knocking on your door. They're blasting through that I-35 corridor. Is going to be a mess this early evening into the overnight hours as that line of storms moves through Wichita. To Kansas City, where you're fairly quiet for the early part of the day. By the time we are getting off work, we're trying to start our weekend, that's when those storms start to fill in, and they're continuing into our evening. This maybe is not the Friday to make those Friday dinner plans around 7 or 8 o'clock. Into 10 o'clock, that rain is still coming down. To the Ozarks now, where you're fairly quiet again until we get into the evening and overnight hours. You want to make sure you have some way to get those alerts as those storms blast through. Steph.
All right, well, all of a sudden the switch.
Rinse and repeat in the Midwest. More powerful storms getting ready to bring damaging wind and hail to major metros like Kansas City. Now, some of those storms already rumbling this morning, bringing more rain and lightning from Nebraska down into Arkansas. Plus, flood alerts re-enter the Northeast round after round, bringing rain to areas that absolutely don't need a drop. The multi-day flood risk taking us into the weekend. This is America's Morning Headquarters. I'm meteorologist Felicia Combs, alongside meteorologists Lynette Charles and Stephanie Abrams. National correspondent Justin Michaels will also join us live from Vermont as the region braces for more rain. And that's the last thing that we want to see there, Steph. But there are also some other places that can't handle any more rain this morning.
Arkansas is one of those spots.
Rain in the forecast across the Northeast, across New England, where we don't need it at all. You You can see we've had that rain that pushed through Boston earlier. Now it's starting to exit. We've got a couple severe thunderstorm warnings as you look there through New Jersey, portions of New York. We've got all New York area airports, so LaGuardia, Newark, and JFK on a ground stop right now until 7:30 as this line of storms blast through, lifting north and east right now around Mount Olive down through Edison, but this is going to continue lifting northeastward toward Newton and Patterson, moving through the city as well. So East Orange, Elizabeth, Newark, you're all included in the severe thunderstorm warning until 7:30. Some damaging wind gusts, some hail, some very heavy rain, of course some lightning with this too. This other severe thunderstorm warning that's part of this, including Edison, Old Bridge, and Woodbridge until 7:30. This is going to blast through, and then you'll get a little bit of a break. So it's not going to be lasting all morning, but this is kind of just your first round of storminess here. That severe thunderstorm warning until 7:30, and as mentioned, that ground stop at New York area airports until 7:30 as well. Wider view does show that we're seeing the bulk of the rain pushing offshore of Boston, but the Cape getting some of that heavy rain currently. Some showers moving along Long Island. That's going to continue pushing off. As we head through the day, we've got that possibility for rounds of rain across the Hudson Valley, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, up through New Hampshire, all with that possibility of a bit of flooding as the ground is waterlogged, and we're adding more water to the already waterlogged ground. Flash flood warnings here that were in effect for Raleigh, Durham, still included in that as the rain is not quite done. Heavy rain beginning to push east of that main area of the flash flood warning, but because you've seen so much rain, you could still be running into some ponding, some localized flooding, so keep that in mind. That flash flood warning for Durham, for Raleigh until 7:30. This is going to push out over that 95 corridor, and that is going to be a slow go of it with that heavy rain. So keep an eye on it. You'll get a little bit of a break after that moves through. So if you're getting ready to head out the door right now, maybe just hold off for a second. That risk for severe thunderstorms today from New England all the way down through the mid-Atlantic. Cities like D.C., Richmond, Ocean City, Philly, all included in that risk for storms with a little bit of feistiness to them. Maybe that gusty wind, maybe a bit of hail, and some heavy rain too. Here's your lunchtime. Just a few storms bubbling up on the map. It's really as we head into your afternoon and evening that we start to see things becoming more widespread. I know that's like the worst, right, Steph? It's like you're sitting in work all day Friday. You're ready to get off work, start your weekend. It's 6 p.m. and that's when it starts storming.
That might be bad for some like you.
I feel like if you're that close, you might as well break it.
Even that hot?
Yeah, like if you're going to be 115, you might as well be 116 and have a new record.
Guys.
I don't know. I like to take it all the way, guys. It's Friday as well. Finally Friday. We do have to... Well, we made it through the week. We made it to our Friday, and maybe your Friday's including some travel plans. If it is, we're seeing pretty good travel conditions with the exception of some delays that we've got going on in the Northeast. Lots of green bubbles here, meaning we're not seeing a ton of weather delays currently, but that could change as we head through the day as many parts of the country have that chance for some feisty storms. Kansas City as well as Boston, that chance for some scattered storms, in Charlotte too. As you know, it might not be storming where you are, but if your plane is coming from somewhere it's storming, that could cause a delay. Right now we've got ground stops at LaGuardia and Newark airports at least through 8:30, so we're definitely seeing some delays through the major travel hub of NYC. Atlanta should be fine today. Meanwhile, in Miami, you've got that chance for some scattered storms. Your typical afternoon thunderstorm pattern that could bring you some of those travel problems if you're trying to fly out a little later this afternoon. If you're flying out this morning, isn't it the worst? Like, you're so excited. You got up early. You made it to the airport on time. Maybe I like to people watch, so I get there early. Maybe you did that in New York if you're flying out this morning, and now you're either on a ground stop, your flight is delayed for a little while, and you're like, oh, I could have slept for another hour. This whole line of severe thunderstorms moving northeast at about 30 miles an hour. This is until 7:30 for the cities of Woodbridge and Colonia. This is for damaging wind gusts, maybe some hail, lots of lightning and rain associated with this too. Not just there, but you can see this whole line is, well, pretty much this whole line is severe warned. Mount Olive, Troy Hills until 7:45 as this continues lifting north and east. Patterson, that's knocking on your door. So if you're in Patterson right now getting ready to walk out the door and start your Friday, maybe hold off until this line of storms moves through. Out to the plains now, where Nebraska, you are dealing with this complex of storms. Lots of lightning, heavy rain with this, and that risk for severe storms from Wichita, Kansas City down through OKC. Certainly some gusty winds are part of the risks here, but heavy rain, large hail can't be ruled out as we head through today either. Steph.
Rounds of heavy rain flooding home.
You want to make sure you know your severe weather safety plan in advance. And with it being the weekend, you also want to know, maybe you're out of town and you're traveling and you're staying in a hotel. You want to know where the safe spot in that hotel is too. So you just want to be vigilant and not be rushing around in a panic when you find yourself in one of these warnings. Speaking of warnings, we've got flash flood warnings up from Fort Smith down through Mena. We're seeing those flash flood warnings stick around because we've seen quite a bit of rain already and we're adding more rain to that. So if you're getting ready to head out the door in this area, do know you could be running into some ponding on the roadways. You could be seeing some localized flooding, so please just be careful. Remember, we say it all the time, turn around, don't drown. It sounds just like a catchy phrase, but we have seen way too many people drive into those flood waters recently. We've got this complex of storms. Oh, geez. I've been awake since 2:30. You've got this complex of storms, not snorms, diving south through Nebraska. Quite a bit of lightning, some heavy rain as well. And as we head through today, we're going to continue with that chance for some severe storms. Now I can't say storms without thinking snorms. Anyways, severe storms certainly possible for cities like Kansas City, Springfield, Tulsa, Oklahoma City as well. And with that, you could have a bit of hail, but you could also have some really damaging winds too. So anywhere shaded in blue, you have that possibility for some gusty winds, maybe up around 60 miles an hour, but particularly in this hatched area from Kansas City through Emporia, Salina, Hayes, you have that possibility for 75-mile-per-hour winds or greater with any of those storms. So here's some of that rain and storminess that we're seeing currently. There's our other complex that we're watching diving through Nebraska. Watch what happens as we head through the day. Here's 12 o'clock. You've got those storms all around Nebraska moving into Omaha. A couple storms dotting the map in Oklahoma and Arkansas as well. As we head into the afternoon, you're getting off work. You're starting your weekend in KC, right? Well, you got to watch for these storms moving through. You'll notice how this is starting to take kind of a little backward C shape here. That is indicative of a line segment of storms that has some very strong winds embedded within it, blasting down into the Ozarks. Springfield, you're getting in on that. St. Louis, the storms overnight. So you'll have to plan your weekend, your Friday night into your Saturday around these storms. This is what I call cancel those plans weather, because you make plans like a week ahead of time.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'll be there, girl. I'm excited. But then you're like, sorry, can't come. I don't want to come anymore. There's storms.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to have for this weekend.
Yeah.
We're getting it for today. Let's talk about the Northeast, because the Northeast is just like the
a lot about the heat. Triple-digit temps are threatening to break heat records this weekend, and you can see just how quickly your car heats up. In a place like Vegas, where the forecast for today is 111 degrees, that is already hot. But after just 10 minutes in your car, it's 130 degrees, 145 after 30 minutes. So you can see how quickly that becomes even more dangerous. In New Orleans, where it's 95 degrees today, after just 10 minutes, you're sitting at 114. But after 30 minutes, that's 129 degrees. Waco, with a temperature of 105. After just 10 minutes, you're sitting at 124 degrees. So a couple different things. Kids and pets, you should not be leaving them in the car. And then also make sure you know it's going to be very hot in your car when you get in there. It is a growing concern, though, with the kids and pets being left in cars when the temperatures are on the rise. Meteorologist Reynolds Wolf explains how to avoid hot car tragedies. Steph, you've been talking about it all morning, this pattern that we're stuck in and cannot get out of. Can you imagine these streaks of like 110-degree days that we've seen in some places?
And it's all because of this heat dome. And by the way, into all of next week, it doesn't change. So we continue to stay hot, and that pushes the jet up and over and passes all the storms right in the same areas again. So
we're going to continue to see this heat sticking around. Excessive heat warnings, heat advice. Now, when you have an excessive heat warning in like New York, you know it's hot. But when you have an excessive heat warning in Phoenix,
it's off the charts.
It's unworldly hot. It is so uncomfortable out there. But the heat advisories, too, in hot places. You can't sneeze at that.
So Vegas, our all-time record high is 117. We're supposed to get to 116 on Sunday, so we'll be close to that. Phoenix, I don't think we're going to get to our all-time record high, but we are definitely going to break this streak of at or above 110 for 18 days or more. That's on Monday. You'll watch for that.
Can you imagine you planned your Vegas vacation, you're having like your girls trip or whatever, you've been planning it for months, and you get out there and this is what you're dealing with?
Well, first of all, let me just say, 114 versus 105 or 110.
What's the difference?
For me,
it's all the same.
It is boiling hot, right? And people say, oh, it's a dry heat. No, I've been out here when it's this hot. I literally thought my skin was burning.
You just cannot be outside. And that's in the shade. That's the temperature in the shade.
Very good
in
point.
The sun, you're like, I'm a raisin. I was a grape, and now I'm a raisin.
Exactly. Records are going to get broken. They're going to get smashed. There's Phoenix at 117, Albuquerque 100. So we're going to be closer. If we're going to be this hot, we might as well break some records.
I agree. Go down in the record books. Go all the way. We've got those records sticking around till Sunday. Look at this. Salt Lake City, your forecast 106, the old record 103. You're going to blast past that old record.
Yeah, breaking a record by 3 is a big deal.
Good Friday morning. Let's talk about where we're seeing storms, where we saw storms overnight. I hope this wasn't your Friday that you take off. You know, sometimes you're like, I just need a day. I need a long weekend. I'm going to take this Friday off and sleep in. And then Mother Nature's like, absolutely not. Crash, bang, boom. That's what some of us were dealing with early this morning, are still dealing with. Valentine, you're in the light rain right now, but we've got heavier rain over toward O'Neill, Broken Bow. You've got some of that shower and storm activity moving toward North Platte as well. Let's look at the future radar, time this out for you. Your lunchtime is going to be a bit soggy around this 80 corridor. So if you're in Kearney and you normally go out to get your lunch, you might want to pack it and take it with you. As you get to work this morning, take that umbrella inside. It doesn't do you any good if you leave it in your car. I'm telling you that from personal experience. By 3 o'clock, we're seeing most of this begin to push south of that I-80 corridor around North Platte. And then we've got the chance for a couple more storms as we head into the evening, but you'll get a few hours break if you have something you need to get in without all the rain and storms. Now, when we talk about severe thunderstorms, you have to have those winds up around 60 miles per hour, around 58 miles per hour for it to be severe. So when we get up to 75 mile per hour or greater, you get into that straight line wind danger. And that's what we're going to have here along I-70, Salina, down through Wichita, Emporia, over into Kansas City. Portions of that 49 Interstate 2, I-49, going to be included in that. When you're talking about 75 mile per hour winds or greater, you're going to see that possibility for some maybe power outages, for trees down, for limbs down. Here's Wichita. Here's 7 o'clock. You see those storms blasting in from the north. So I would say if you're trying to make your dinner plans in Wichita, probably not the Friday for it. This might be the Friday where you want to just stay at home and chill out. This is the same story in Kansas City. Quiet for most of the day. Watch how the storms begin to bubble up and build in right as we're heading into the time for you to get off of work, hanging around into your Friday night and clearing through. Again, some of these storms across the Ozarks as well could be a bit feisty, so have some way to get those alerts as they blast through during the overnight hours. Steph.
It's been so atypical.
It's rinse and repeat in the Midwest. More powerful storms getting ready to bring damaging wind and hail to major metros like Kansas City. Now, some of those storms already rumbling this morning, bringing rain and lightning from Nebraska down to Arkansas. Plus, flood alerts re-enter the Northeast round after round, bringing rain to areas that absolutely do not need one more drop. The multi-day flood risk taking us into the weekend here. This is America's Morning Headquarters. I'm meteorologist Felicia Combs, alongside meteorologists Lynette Charles and Stephanie Abrams. National correspondent Justin Michaels will also join us live from Vermont as the region braces for more rain. Steph, it seems like the places that have been getting rain that can't take anymore just keep getting more.
Yeah, we're stuck, and you might know that
they're still elevated. They're still trying to clean up from the flooding that they saw, but that is what is going to happen. We've got more rain across this region. So we've had storms blasting through the New York City area, blasting through northern New Jersey this morning as well. Boston, you had some storms overnight. Now, this was a severe warned kind of line of storms lifting north and east, but the severe warnings have been dropped as that's moving through White Plains up through Stony Point. Now, we still have some travel delays in the New York City area, JFK and Newark, dealing with those ground stops. I think LaGuardia is on a ground delay as of now. So regardless, you're still dealing with some of those delays, which is not fun on a Friday morning in one of the major travel hubs here in the country. A few rain showers still lingering around there on Long Island. The Cape, most of that rain is done with the exception of a few sprinkles. You can see where we have flood alerts up here, flood watches for places like Poughkeepsie, Springfield, Mass, over through Worcester, Providence included in that, portions of southern New Hampshire as well. Rain is going to continue coming down. We've had quite a bit of rain across the Raleigh area. Now you're not in that flash flood warning anymore, but there is one just north of you, and there's more rain getting ready to move in there. So that flash flood warning until 8:30 for Butner, for Creedmoor, for Lewisburg as well. And as you can see, the rain is moving out. It's over Rocky Mount. It's over 95, but you've got more rain getting ready to fill in, so you're not quite done. That's moving out of Greensboro as we speak. Today, we've got that risk for a few severe storms for cities like Philly up through Hartford, Richmond, Raleigh, all included in that risk for some damaging winds, maybe a little bit of hail with any of these storms too. Let's time it out on future radar. Fairly quiet by your lunch hour. Just a few storms beginning to bubble up. Now watch what happens as we head into your afternoon. We're getting off work. We're ready to start our weekend, right? I don't know. You might have to put it off just a little bit. Plan around the weather. You can see the rain and storms across New Hampshire, portions of northern Vermont, upstate New York, down through the mid-Atlantic, D.C. You'll have some storms blasting through for your Friday night, so do keep that in mind. And of course, Steph, across much of this region, we really do not need any more rain at all.
No, but
Lynette, let's tell you about what you need to know as you are getting out the door in the Northeast. We've got like NYC being impacted. Maybe you're traveling this morning. Pack your patience a bit as we have those delays in NYC. Not showing up on the map. I'm not sure why it's not showing JFK, at least yellow, but you get the point here. Mostly we're looking at okay travel conditions. The problem is as we head through the later part of the day today, we've got that possibility for storms in cities like Kansas City and Boston. So of course that could delay some of your flights. Just know that maybe it's not storming where you are, but it's storming where your flight was coming from. That could cause you some issues too. Atlanta looks fine today. Miami, though, some of those scattered afternoon storms. So if you're kicking off your weekend with a little bit of Friday travel, just know that the weather could be impacting you. So pack your patience. Now, if you're headed out here in this region of New York up toward Newburgh, the rain isn't to you yet, but it will be soon. We've got a flash flood warning for the cities of Middletown, Monroe, Warwick, all included in that. Very, very heavy rain coming down on already saturated ground is leading to some localized flooding, some hydroplaning certainly possible. White Plains right now, you are getting hammered by those storms that are moving through. To the central U.S., where we've got a severe thunderstorm warning, and this is going to be the story as we head through the second portion of your afternoon and evening too. That risk for some feisty storms certainly possible. Severe thunderstorm warning for the city of Whitman. That's until 6:45 local time. Could have some hail, some damaging winds certainly possible with that. So take this one seriously. If you're about to walk out the door in Whitman, just wait until that line of storms moves through. You don't want to be out and about in that. Now, as we head through today, Kansas City, Wichita, down through Springfield, you have the highest risk for some of those severe storms. And one of the main risks today, especially across a huge portion of Kansas, is going to be those winds gusting upwards of 75 miles an hour. Salina, Emporia, Kansas City, you're all included in that, as well as Wichita. And Steph, when you're talking about 75 mile per hour wind gusts, you're talking about winds that can bring down trees, might have some power outage issues. Those aren't storms that you want to play with.
So I think all the time people.
All right, it's your Friday morning, and some of us are dealing with storms, and not just storms, but severe storms in some places. We've got a severe thunderstorm warning here in Nebraska as this line of storms pushes southeastward at about 35 miles an hour. We've got 60 mile per hour wind gusts within this, and we've got that possibility for some hail as well. I wouldn't be surprised if you got some hail out of this already. The city of Whitman included. This is until 6:45 local time. Heavy rain. If you're getting ready to head out the door in Whitman right now, just give it a few minutes. Wait for this to pass. You'll have a little bit of a break in between that and the next time you're getting some rain. So just give it a second if you don't have to be out in that you don't want to be. Our risk for severe thunderstorms today, anywhere shaded in red, you have that risk for a feisty storm. So Paducah, even though you're not in the darkest shading of red, you still have that risk. Up through Chicago, Kansas City, though, Salina, Wichita, you're all included in that slightly higher end risk of severe storms. The possibility for hail, some large hail possible, but also what we're really going to watch today is that possibility for damaging straight line winds, maybe up around 75 miles per hour or greater. We've seen recently the damage that these straight line winds can do. So if you find yourself in a severe thunderstorm warning, especially in cities like Salina, Emporia, Kansas City, make sure you're taking that seriously. You're finding a safe place. Watch our two different areas of storminess as we head through your Friday. Lunchtime in Omaha, it's going to be a bit of a wet, stormy one. Same thing around Tulsa, Springfield, the Ozarks. You guys have those feistier storms moving in by the time we get to the sunset hours. So here's our line of storms, our area of storminess beginning to develop by 5, 6 o'clock. Kansas City, you're getting off of work and you're walking into this, so keep an eye to the sky. Here it's 9 o'clock. You can see that kind of backward C shape of those storms indicating likely some very strong winds moving across that I-49 corridor, blasting through the Ozarks, Springfield, Branson. You're getting in on that as we head into the overnight hours. Always, as Steph was saying too, a lot of focus when you get under a tornado warning, and sometimes people maybe don't pay as much attention to the severe thunderstorm warnings. But when you're talking about the dangers of straight line winds like this, you really have to pay attention to those severe thunderstorm warnings too. Stay away from trees and power lines. You want to get to the lowest level of your house. If you're driving, you want to be cautious of You know, it's the worst, Lynette. You're driving along and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I can't see anything. The rain is everywhere. And it can be scary, but as long as you know what to do, you should be fine.
Exactly. That's why you always want to take precautions and know before you go.
Exactly. Know that forecast.
Exactly. And for the forecast in the Northeast, it's a rough one right now.
Be out there, nations around the country without breaking the bank.
That's right. Our stop this week is the state of Ohio. Joining us this morning is Lydia Mihalik, Director for the Ohio Department of Development. Lydia, thanks so much for being with us. I want to get started with some water and islands. Ohio is not the first place I think of when I think of islands. So where do you go for that?
Look, there's so many amazing.
You guys known for a special ice cream type or flavor or something like that?
We actually are. We have an amazing Ohio.
What is it in Cincinnati with that spaghetti that you eat? What's it called?
You got to check it out. It's Skyline Chili. You got to check it out.
I knew that. I knew.
Yes.
I actually
Sorry,
did know that.
I couldn't get it in my head.
So we've covered ice cream. We've covered spaghetti chili. How about some wine?
We need something to wash it down.
Yeah, we definitely need something to wash all this down.
Absolutely. So we
idea that Ohio had wineries. I guess I just thought it'd be too cold, you know, in the winter, that it would freeze.
No, it's actually. We're actually, it's a really good place. Our soil was enriched back when the glaciers.
Lydia, you're referring to the glaciers actually made the Great Lakes. I don't know if a lot of people know that. They came in and carved them out and left the Great Lakes there. So that's what she was referring to.
Yeah, I love that. So awesome. Okay, so I understand there are 100 things to do in Ohio. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we would love
wine,
to have
ice cream, noodle chili. I'm there.
All right, Lydia Mihalik, Director of the Ohio Department of Development. I'm ready to go. Let's pack our bags.
We should take the show on the road.
Yes, I like that idea. While we're trying to figure out how we're going to do that, Lynette, we're going to hand it over to you.
All right, guys.
Felicia, of Monday's catastrophic flooding, and it's going to take quite a long time to bring everything back. Felicia,
Justin, thanks so much for showing us that and giving us that perspective, because sometimes it's hard to tell just how bad things are until you see those examples like that and how it's impacting people. Justin, we'll talk to you some more a little later. Thanks so much. Meanwhile, we've got to take a look at where we've got that possibility for storms not only this morning, but as we head through the afternoon and evening. It's going to be impacting your Friday. This was severe warned, at least portions of this line of storms earlier, but it has lost those severe warnings. Does not mean, though, that it's not going to pack a little bit of a punch if you're heading out the door right now. Some rain in between Valentine and North Platte, a few showers there through Broken Bow, O'Neill. You've had some heavy rain and some lightning and storms ongoing. Now, this I-80 corridor is going to be impacted as we head through your lunch hour. Places like North Platte, you can see that there, maybe a few storms around Grand Island. It's going to start to build in early afternoon. Now, watch what happens. You get a few hours of break in between this first line of storms that moves through and that chance for the next round of storms that moves in later on. So if you have something you really need to get done this Friday, maybe you just have to run out and grab a few groceries or something like that, you have a couple hours that you can do it in between the storm chances today. Now, when we do have those storms ongoing, especially during our second portion of our afternoon, evening into the overnight, damaging winds are part of the threat that we have to look at. Not just your normal severe thunderstorm winds that we're looking at, maybe up around 58 miles an hour, closer to 75 miles per hour or greater along portions of that 70 corridor up and down I-49. Joplin, you're included in that as well. And what that tells me is that can bring down trees. That could cause some power outages as well. Places like Wichita, it's going to be your evening into the early overnight hours that you see that possibility for some of those feisty storms. Lynette.
All right, Felicia.